In his circular, the Chief Secretary says given the unprecedented level of spending required to deal with the pandemic and the uncertainty created by Brexit, departments need to comply with Cabinet-approved instructions, which he considers absolutely necessary in order to protect the stability of public finances and the sustainability of the public sector. Mr. Grech reminds controlling officers that they are to stick to budgets as provided for in the current estimate and says any request for supplementary funding will require pre-approval by the Cabinet. He says huge numbers of workers in our economy are having to rely on salaries paid by beat measures. But in the public sector, all officers have been paid their salaries in full even when not at work. Therefore, he says all discretionary overtime is suspended with immediate effect and staff are requested to complete work during working hours. If essential work needs to be done after these hours, Mr. Grech says controlling officers must put this in writing to the Office of the Chief Secretary in advance for approval. Mr. Grech also says departments will be required to produce performance-related objectives, which are measurable quarterly, which attempt to marry efficiencies and service for review. Only officers who have been temporarily promoted will be deemed to be substituting. All other officers will revert to their original grade. Any new acting in post will have to be approved by the Chief Secretary and only when deemed necessary. He says all departments must cooperate with the digitization team and start to align internal management systems to incorporate the software. Mr. Grech says he has full confidence that every single public servant and their officers will support the work of the elected government in seeking to ensure that Gibraltar is among the first nations in the world to return to pre-pandemic standards of prosperity. The second circular is from the Financial Secretary, who tells controlling officers and accounting officers that it's now far more critical than ever for all public servants to ensure that expenditure is tightly controlled and limited to essential items. Albert Mena says no non-essential expenditure is to be entered into until the end of the financial year, unless it has been pre-approved by the relevant minister. He says the practice of using up remaining allocated funds before the close of the financial year is never acceptable, but that in a situation where COVID-related expenditure now exceeds £167 million, we all need to be extra focused on ensuring government deploys its available funding on essential spending only. He says the Chief Minister has instructed the finance team to monitor far more closely than ever the departmental spend from now to the end of the financial year, and that action will be taken against officers not following instructions.